Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. I'm your host, Jacob Edens, and today we are going to be discussing some craziness, such as quantum entanglement, fourth dimensional thinking, and how that reflects in the way that you create your reality. So, what is quantum entanglement, right? So, the reason that quantum entanglement is so ridiculous, like if you read a book on quantum entanglement, it's like a bunch of insanity, right? It's like, all of these different things are super complex, and because you can do it's nothing like that, right? It's just understanding that you are in an infinitesimal field of potentiality, right? And everything is an experience, if you want to put it like that, right? So when you're having the experience of going from unconsciously creating your reality to consciously creating something, right? The reason you know something is unconsciously created is because it causes suffering, right? Because if you created it the way you wanted it to be, you'd be happy. You'd have what you want. You'd be like, this is dope. So anything that's not the way you want it to be, there's an unconscious, what you could call belief or field of energy and potentiality that's focused upon that has physically manifested, right? And the reason that you use manifest is not because, we're writing in our journals or something like that. The reason you use manifest is because it just means from unseen to seen. So if you're in an infinite field of potentiality, when something physicalizes like this Zen can, right, it comes into seen, right? But there's an infinite field of potentiality around me that has not materialized into a blue Zen can. It has been chosen and selected to be the green version, right? So when you are harnessing that infinite field of potentiality, the skill set that you want to learn is called fourth dimensional thinking, right? Which is essentially thinking as if something is done now. All of the suffering comes from essentially what you could consider an experience of distance, right? So it's like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent next month, right? You're putting this thing, which if you understand your mind, everything is right now. Because if I think of something in the past, I'm thinking of it right now. To remember is to reconnect something, right? You dismember, you cut it apart. When you remember, you bring it back together. So essentially what you're doing is you're summoning an image from the quantum field of energy and potentiality around you to fixate your attention on. So as you understand that process, right, and then you understand the process of this reality and how things are created, which is, for lack of a better term, thoughts to things, right? Architect thinks of a house, walks the path, the house is there, right? That's how it rolls in a super, super simplified term. When you have something that's unwanted, 100% of the time, what it is there's distance between you, perceived distance between you embodying the version of yourself that you want to be now or having what you want to have now, right? So a lot of that comes down to retraining the way that you think to avoid that suffering, because when you look at something like love, right? Love is what all things come out of, right? They say unconditional love is the base frequency of reality, and then unconditional love powers everything. The reason it's called unconditional, right? You can think of it like a hose. If you have a hose and it just waters everything, it's unconditionally watering everything. But the second you put a kink and say, well, before this can be watered, this has to be met, now it's conditional, right? So there's a condition placed on that energy flow, etc. So what happens when you kink the hose and the water's still going through? It starts to build up and create tension and resistance, okay? So what you have whenever you have a negative experience or anything that's not the way you want it to be, it's because there's a kink right here. I want this, but I can't have this because of this, and you're letting it stay unresolved, okay? So remember, you have a field of energy and information around you, which is why when you walk into a room, you can sense someone's energetic field, their presence, their mood, etc., right? You can understand their beingness at a core level through reading that energy field with your own energy field. You have an interplay of energy whenever you're interacting with somebody. You're both acting in an intersection. So when you start to understand that principle of who you are, you understand that your ability to focus, your awareness, allows you to selectively pick the potentialities out of the quantum field around you that you would like to access at any given point in time. So when you have something that's causing you pain, say it's like, this physical ailment or something of that nature, there's an infinite potential reality around you that you can select from, but this thing has been hyper fixated, and then there's been a kink put on it where it's like, this is this way and I can't fix it, so I have to keep looking at it, right? But your awareness channels that unconditional love, which you can replace love with power and potential, right? So your focus, awareness creates, and your thought process changes your identity, essentially. Those are the two things that you're doing all the time. You're thinking and you're focusing, right? So when you want to create something new, what you want to do is you want to retract your awareness from the old paradigm and you want to plug it into the new paradigm, right? Because you're always flowing that energy through your focus and intention, right? So what you want to do is just be conscious of where you're placing that energy. And what you understand is that anytime you have to blast through something or fight, it's because you've accepted a condition about that thing that needs to be battled with and or dealt with. But the acceptance of that condition is essentially you placing your energy into that kink in the hose when you could just unkink it and be like, that's not a problem, and then focus onto the solution. So that's how you understand the quantum field and your ability to essentially choose which potentialities you want to focus on, right? Because everything is coming out of you, everything is flowing through you, ideas, emotions, all of these things are superimposed on top of you, the soul, right? Even the body, right? You leave your body's not worth very much. So when you have that understanding, you're able to, instead of have to, oh, I got to go do these things and then get this, I got to go do this and this and this, and then this can happen. You are jumping to the end of what you want, right? You're saying, okay, I want more money. So what does it feel like to have more money right now? And you go into that state right now, because anytime you have dissatisfaction or lack of fulfillment, right? There's two realities you can always be in. There's a reality experience of not being who you want and not having what you want. That's categorized as a non-fulfillment reality. Then there's a fulfillment reality, which is you are who you want to be and you have what you want to have now. That's a fulfillment reality. So the first test you want to do when you're focusing on something mental, whether it's an emotion, a thought, a mental movie, an affirmation, doesn't matter, right? Those are tools to focus your awareness, which creates, right? In your thought, you become things through thinking. So once you focus that and you go, does this have the implication that I am who I want to be and have what I want to have? Or does it have the implication that I'm not who I want to be and don't have what I want to have right now? If you can clock it as either a fulfillment or non-fulfillment reality, that's the best thing you can do, because if it's on the non-fulfillment reality, you know that the issue is that you're putting that life force focus energy into that and you're creating that reality. So no biggie, you can unplug it and plug it into the reality that you want. And the way that you do that is through using your imaginative center, right? So when you talk about different states of conscious awareness, a state is a parameter, meaning that you have the state of Texas. There's a line around it, and everything around that line is considered Texas. You labeled that state, right? So when you have a state of awareness, right, you can have a state of poverty. You can have a state of wealth. So what is that? It's a line around a state, and all the contents in there have what? They have the implication that you are wealthy, or on the reverse side, that you are poor, right? So when you're focusing your awareness from an internal center of power and authority, autonomy, right, sovereignty, what you're doing is you're taking your mind and you're placing it on the reality, what you would consider a fourth dimensional reality, which is your mindscape, right? You have a third physicalized reality that's more dense and hardened, and then you have a more subtle, energetic, and fluid reality, which is your mental space, within which you have much more acuity, right? I can have a bicycle in my mind, and then I can change that bicycle to purple, green, blue, or whatever I want, right? So having the ability to run that mind and use that to send out manifestations into my reality is the center of your internal sovereignty. Because if you can understand that process, that you can turn your own thoughts into things, and that your assumptions, your wavelengths, right? I assume this is going to be this way. I have an assumption this is going to go my way. You bandwidth, right? You can control those. Now you have the ability to dictate the flow of your energy in directed, concentrated ways that are accurate to what you decide that you want, instead of unconsciously having all of that energy flowing on past circumstances, traumas, etc. So once you understand that, you refine your focus, you pull your energy back, and you think, okay, well, I am who I want to be now, and I have what I want to have now. What does that entail, right? And you start to live the actual life that you want to have right now from an internal place, because you understand that that potentiality field around you has all of the potentials in it. You have access to them all. You can see yourself as not having what you want. You can see yourself as having what you want with a condition. You can see yourself whatever, right? That is what essentially the essence of free will is understanding that you have a choice on where to place your awareness, and understanding where you place your awareness. Thoughts turn into things. You get to choose selectively the thoughts that you want, and then you get to cultivate your own garden through more so managing the inputs of your own internal workings and discerning what is good for you and what is not good for you, and then focusing on what you decide rather than being reactive to things that have already been created from using the same type of manifestational power, but as if you were essentially asleep behind the wheel, right? So you wake up in the morning, you were falling asleep while you're driving, your car's all dinged up. You're like, oh no, I'm a bad driver, right? You put all of the attention and focus on something being wrong with you, this, and this. No. The process is working perfect, and that's what you should be excited about, is that you actually have the ability to access and create potentialities in your world, and that the world is responding to your focused intentions, right? So that's really good to know, because now it's not really so much about fixing the old things. It's about embodying and going into that new frame of reference that all has the implication of you being who you want to be and having what you want to have, which essentially will give you the emotional quality that you're looking for in your life, right? What does everybody really want at the end of the day? Well, they want to feel good. They want to feel empowered. They want to create what they want to create the way that they want to create it, right? So what does that mean? That's basically a sovereign being, right? So how do you go through life with an element of sovereignty within you when the entire world tries to tell you that, you have to do this, and this? You realize that those things can access you only through your awareness of them, right? It's not to say to ignore things, but it's meant to say what you consistently focus on and or aware of expands. So in the way that you want to have your car give you the little E thing when you're running low on gas, you actually want that, because now you can focus on the version of your car that has gas, and then even further you can think about how much fun you're going to have driving your car now that you have more gas, right? You could do that in the opposite way as well, where you have the E thing and you can go, oh no, my car's going to run out of gas, I'm never going to be able to drive my car again, right? It doesn't make any sense. So every single thing that has a negative connotation to it is simply just a little bumper on the side of the road, like a rumble strip, right? So your ability to hit that rumble strip and then re-merge back onto your ideal lane is how fluid you can be in your life and stay in what you would consider alignment, also considered accurate, also considered righteous thought patterns, which all have the implication of I am who I want to be and I have what I want to have now. I'm not putting it off. I'm not creating an experience of distance within me that will inevitably cause suffering because I'm putting the kink in the flow, right? It's not good to have energy buildup over time because it creates that resistance. That's how you see people get sick and all these different things. So as you understand that, you become quicker to realize that these things are just flag posts and that you can modulate the way that you're paying attention to it in a way that serves you and actually catapults you into a greater reality. So I know you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave comments, as well as if you'd like to do any coaching, you can check out the link tree for my protocols or my one-on-ones as well, if that's something that you would feel would empower you. More important than any of that, go conquer, and I'll see you in the next one.